sweater. Welcome to Hot Stove, presented by the General Insurance on a Thursday in Studio K. Mike Lowell in for Harold. Good to have you with us here, man.
Thank you. Thank you. You have all those buttons with all the...
Yeah.
You got a lot at your fingertips.
A lot going on here. Yeah,
right.
so the brain gets a little scrambled every once in a while. Harold, by the way, is en route to Arizona, where he will be hosting a live version of this program tomorrow morning from the Dream Series in Tempe with Chris Young. That's going to be pretty cool. But in terms of what we're doing today, we have Bronson Arroyo joining us, longtime big league starter, who's got a burgeoning music career, has had that musical talent for a long time. He's just dropped a new album. We're going to talk to Bronson about that. Twins manager Rocco Baldelli is going to join us here shortly to talk about what it means to have Carlos Correa back in the fold. Kevin Youkilis, your former teammate, is with us. You know, it's actually interesting that we talk about Youkilis and have you sitting here, because the other day, it was Tuesday, when we were talking about the terrible national championship game between TCU and Georgia. Harold and I were recalling the worst, most lopsided World Series of our lifetimes, and your 2007 victory against the Rockies, in which your opponent led for 3.5 innings. What a
that was bad. That was bad for you guys.
Great. I mean, you were World Series MVP that year. When you play in a series like that, that's so lopsided, do you have a moment where you're like, this is done?
Not really, because we were coming off that Cleveland series where we were down 3-1. So we knew we wanted to kind of, I don't know, put our stamp on game one because it was at home. But games 2 and 4 were close. So it's not like, I mean, we were ahead, but it was, you know, I think game 2 ended up 2-1 and we ended up winning 4-3, I think, game 4. So it's not like we were up 9-1 after 3 innings.
Okay, got it.
Game 1 was a boat race.
Yeah. A bunch of Hall of Famers played in that series. Not a bunch, but a number of them. And, of course, we're talking Hall of Fame this month. January 24th, Hall of Fame Day. We're going to talk about Mark Burley today as a Hall of Fame candidate. He's not a Hall of Famer, at least not in terms of the exit polling. He's tracking at about 10%. But of all the names we play with, and this is a time when a lot of your contemporaries are on the ballot now. Is there somebody we're missing for you? Like, who should be in there that you played against that's not?
Well, I lobbied a lot for Tim Raines. Not that my lobbying did anything. I don't have a vote. Just because when I was a September call, I pinch ran for Tim Raines.
Really?
So, yeah. I mean, it was runners on second and third. He walks. I'm with the Yankees. I pinch ran for Tim Raines, so I can say that this guy pinch ran for one of the greatest base stealers. But didn't play for him long. Billy Wagner. You know, he was in Boston for a short time, but, you know, you just look at his numbers. I mean, it's not like he had a good 8-year span. I mean, this is a good 15-year span. I mean, besides Mariano, I think he was easily the most feared reliever for well over a decade.
Gotcha.
I know his playoff numbers take a little hit, but it's such a small sample size. But he's a stud.
Right.
Should be in there.
So, you know, it's always on-field stuff that we judge the value of a Hall of Famer, but there was a Hall of Fame save yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw this, Mikey.
Yes,
press
this was
conference.
Great.
Rafi Devers press conference. Sam Kennedy gets up and just does a header in his zeal to do the bro handshake. He almost ate it, and Rafi saved the president and CEO of the Red Sox from doing a complete header behind the dais.
I was saying yesterday that Devers' defense has gotten better, and look at that, man. I mean,
there it is.
The hands are ready. He's ready to rock. Sam Kennedy. You already gave him enough money, but maybe an extra, I don't know, steak or something.
Buy him lunch?
Yeah, we'll buy him lunch.
So that was our big takeaway from that press conference yesterday. J.P. Morosi had other more salient takeaways from both press conferences that we delivered live yesterday. Carlos Correa in Minnesota, Rafi Devers in Boston. J.P., good morning. Give us your key takeaways from those moments.
Matt and Mike, good morning. Let's start with Carlos Correa, officially now a member again of the Minnesota Twins. And a few things that we learned yesterday that were on our minds all offseason. He confirmed that he actually had 3 different physical exams with Twins team physician Chris Camp during 2022. Actually, the first one was with Dr. Neil Elatrash in L.A. while he was still a free agent previous to the 2022 season. Then he had his Twins entry physical, and there was a year-end exit physical that Correa had with Dr. Camp. That's really important because that confirms the Twins had a chance to get a full picture of his health before he left at the end of the seaon. That's really important. Scott Boras then also made a very strong pitch on his belief in there being a difference between what an MRI says and the observed functionality of a player from a physiological standpoint, observed on the field and also in clinical exams. He made this point multiple times that you should not necessarily be wedded to what the MRI says. And again, we'll see what happens in the years to come. Obviously, 6 guaranteed years, 4 team option years after that. Scott did make the point that when you add it all up together, the 6-year guarantee, the 4 team option years, and Correa's salary from 2022, this past season, that it all can still add up to the magic number of $300 million. So we'll certainly stay tuned there with Carlos Correa, what it means for him and the Minnesota Twins. Now, Rafael Devers, I thought it was really interesting, and we just saw the save there for Rafi with Sam Kennedy. I think that when you think about the Boston Red Sox deal, there was a very clear statement made, and Tom Werner said this. The Red Sox and Devers had worked on this deal for months. It did not necessarily add up to the last couple days after the new year began, where there was new pressure on ownership from the standpoint of the Boston Red Sox. It appears this was months in the making, a really important conversation on New Year's Eve, according to his agent, Nelson Montes de Oca, that he had a conversation there with Sam Kennedy, Chaim Bloom, and the Boston Red Sox. So that was the timeline of things. And a final note as I send it back to you in the studio on the Twins. We saw at the dais for the first time in a significant transaction for the Twins, Joe Pohlad, the 40-year-old who is now the ownership representative of the Minnesota Twins. He has basically been the control person of the franchise now for basically 6 weeks. And Joe Pohlad, 40 years old, the nephew of Jim Pohlad, the longtime Twins owner, Joe certainly putting his stamp on the Twins with this significant signing of Carlos Correa.
I love history.
Oh, I know you do, Harold. Harold loves history, loves the family ownership history of the Twins. So those are the key takeaways from the 2 press events yesterday. There was also a deal that we learned of yesterday, as Miguel Rojas is going back to Los Angeles, the uniform with which he began his major league career. Tell us about the trade.
Back to where it started. Certainly a 1-for-1 trade. Miguel Rojas going back to the Dodgers. The Marlins acquiring a young middle infielder, Jacob Amaya, who could potentially play at the major league level for the Marlins this coming season and has some offensive upside. But for the Dodgers, they wanted to know, with obviously their team changing and the shortstop position being open for them into the offseason, the Dodgers wanted to have someone that they knew could catch the ball. And you see Rojas' OPS there, 605, actually his lowest OPS since his debut season with the Dodgers back in 2014. And you see where potentially we could see Rojas batting towards the lower part of the lineup. I think that we will actually see, should this deal obviously come to fruition and have the full benefit of what the Dodgers expect, we could see Rojas playing shortstop, and we saw Gavin Lux there noted in the lineup. I think we'll see Lux playing a lot of second base, of course, with Trey Turner no longer being a Dodger. Rojas, at the very least, gives them a high-end defensive shortstop. His consistency, he started more than 130 games for the Marlins there in 2022. The Dodgers hope to have that same consistency, at least on the defensive side of the ball, here in 2023.
You know, there are a lot of people around the Marlins who don't like this.
I think it stinks.
Harold among them, apparently. You watch the Marlins a lot, Mikey. Miguel Rojas was kind of, he was royalty there the last couple of years.
Yeah, he was kind of the captain. I think this is his walk here. I don't mind the move for the Marlins. You know, I don't mind the move for the Dodgers. I think it's a little bit more of that old school mentality where we're going to have plenty of offense. We need the guy at a premium position to be able to, if the ball hits him, to make the play. And I think with Max Muncy coming off an arm surgery, moving over to third, to have an above-average defender at short, I think is going to kind of help the whole situation there. I like the move. I mean, sooner or later, the Marlins don't keep their players.
Right.
So he's well liked. He's a solid big leaguer, but it's all right.
Yeah. I think it's a understandable move, I guess, from both sides, especially for the Dodgers getting a veteran guy. Speaking of veteran guys, Nelly Cruz keeps on rolling, and the San Diego Padres officially have a player coach, as he has agreed to a one-year, $1 million deal to be a big toe, big brother, guidance counselor, and part-time home run hitter in San Diego.
Matt, I think his offensive upside is going to be greater than what we saw in 2022 because Nelly, very importantly, had surgery on his eyes after the conclusion of the 2022 season. And so his eyesight was bothering him throughout 2022. It's remarkable that he hit as well as he did without being able to properly see this past season. So he'll go to the Padres. He wanted to make sure that his eyes healed and that he was able to track the baseball well in his offseason work. He was able to check that box. Here's what he did with the Nationals in 2022. And interestingly, a couple notes here. Number one, he's going to be reunited with A.J. Preller, who was a key executive in Nelly joining the Rangers back in 2009. You think about that Carlos Lee trade all those years ago. It seems like it was a generation ago that he first joined the Rangers. A.J. Preller was there. Also, my favorite event, the World Baseball Classic, Nelly is the unique player GM. He is the GM of the Dominican Republic team, and he's a member of the playing roster. And when I saw Nelly at the winter meetings, there was a big availability of all the GMs and managers of the various national teams. I just sort of asked Nelly, how's it going? He said, man, this GM job's pretty tough. And so he's got a hard job there building the very talented Dominican roster, but he's going to still have that bat and be a late inning threat for the Dominicans in March.
If you are too afraid to get hit, don't play.
Oh, all right. Well, look, he's taking hits as a GM. He's collecting hits as a Padre this year. And, boy, I can't wait to talk about Nelly Cruz as a Hall of Famer 5 years from when he decides to retire, whenever that may be, because the resume is there for that. JP, thanks. Good stuff. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Twins manager Rocco Baldelli will join us to talk about how much happier he is knowing that that guy's back in the fold. And if the other guys are healthy, we'll ask Rocco about how he assesses his chances in the tough AL Central. Coming up next.